So this is the section here. Their motivations are regarding human planetary destruction. So it's undeniable we are in unprecedented times. Humans are having such a large scale impact on the planet. Alarm, and it's so contentious. And I'm not a political person. I don't really talk about politics, and I will keep it that way. But I get really annoyed that climate and all the stuff around the planet is political. It's awful. That's become political, and the alarming decline of Earth's forest. Like it doesn't matter what angle you take it. It's not even climate. It can be plastics in the ocean. It's just decimation is what's occurring, and what they showed me on the planet hologram was very accurate. Because the planet went up in flames, and shockingly, this is exactly what's happening: is that fire is increasing everywhere. And we cannot forget that in 2022, our world is in peril. United Secretary General warns the General Assembly the countries are not able to tackle the world's major challenges. And I think I live in BC here, and there was unprecedented weather action last year, and it seems to be increasing every single year. And yeah.
And I would say I've heard 2027 in a kind of an official capacity I can't reveal. So I think I would say that people in the government are aware of something happening, and that there's limited time, a few more years to prepare the people, and that's what's ramping up this acceleration from the previous 7 decades of not even acknowledging it to now we are acknowledging it at a faster and faster pace.
So he heard 2027 in an official capacity. Here he is explaining it again.
We're kind of preparing the U.S. population, at least, and by extension, the world population, into that reality that there is a presence here, and that we need to explain this presence. Because if they show up and we continue to do what we did before in previous decades, and they show up, there will be mass panic. But if you understand that these are real, and we have 5 years from 2022, or maybe now 4 years, if they come in 2027, for the U.S. government to prepare the people about what is up there. And in many ways, I think the word got out within the government that they're showing up in 2027, and we better be prepared. And if not, there's going to be a lot of explaining to do.
So when I first heard 2027, I thought that actually made sense, because I knew what this was all about: planetary destruction. And it's obvious that the damage is starting to increase, and that would be something that the aliens themselves would be concerned about. So here's Paul Hellyer, who served as Canada's Minister of National Defense from 1963 to 1967, speaking at the citizen hearing on UFO disclosure on May 3rd, 2013, which had 40 researchers, military, agency, and political figures all speaking to the public.
What I'd like to do is ask Minister Hellyer, we all talk about the problem. In fact, that's all I hear is defining the problem. We got to think in terms of solutions. What's your solution to the problem?
If you'll indulge me, I'd like to read 2 pages from advice from the extraterrestrials. And I think they've got a lot of good advice, because they know what's going on more than we do sometimes. This is a quote from Jim Sparks, who was probably the most abducted of all the people who have been abducted. There are some things you need to understand. Yes, it's true that we have been in contact with your government and heads of power. It is also true that it is also true that agreements have been made and kept secret from your people. It is also true that in the past, some of your people have lost their lives or have been badly hurt to protect the secret. Our hands had no part in this. We contacted your leaders because your planet is in grave trouble. Your leaders said the vast majority of your population wasn't ready for anything like us yet. So we made time agreements with your leaders as to when your people would be made aware of our presence. That part of the agreement has not at all been kept. It was also agreed that in the meantime, steps would be taken to correct the environmental conditions of your planet with our advice and technology. We say advice, quote unquote, because we respect the fact that this is your planet, not ours. They also broke that agreement. Your air, your water are contaminated. Your forests, jungles, trees, and plant life are dying. There are several breaks in your food chain. You have an overwhelming amount of nuclear and biological weapons, which include nuclear and biological contamination. Your planet is overpopulated. Warning, it is almost to the point of being too late, unless your people act. There are better ways of deriving energy and food needs without causing your planet any damage. Those in power are aware of this and have the capability of putting these methods into worldwide use. Those in power view it as a military and security threat. That upset me. You mean to tell me that the people in power have the ability to save and better the planet, and they aren't doing it? Amnesty. What do you mean? Complete amnesty to those in power, governments and leaders who have been suppressing the truth, that they can't be held liable for any past wrong deeds. It is the only way these leaders can come forward with the truth. It is necessary that you do this in order to work together and survive.
On August 15th, 2002, in a field of wheat in Crabwood, Winchester, UK, a crop circle appeared. It was hundreds of feet long. It was precisely executed with no apparent errors, had horizontal lines of varying height, which had never been repeated. Researcher Paul Vigay discovered the disk being held by the Gray is in ASC2 binary code. When translated, it says, "Beware the bearers of false gifts and their broken promises. Much pain, but still time. Believe there is good out there. We oppose deception. Conduit closing." This is now a very, I would say, very famous, but it's really weird, these things that, us in the UFO community could probably say we all know about this. And we're just on the cusp of maybe the public agreeing that the UFOs are real. And we have like some evidence of them, because this stuff, no human has ever taken credit for this. And it's just unprecedented, some of these things that are obviously, not human. And what is this hinting at, right? And it seems to kind of create a picture that there is a timeline going on here. There's an end date. We're moving towards something with which something has to change. And this was corroborated by, in Linda Moulton Howe's May 12th, 2021 Earth Files episode, Dr. John Brandenburg, the chief of astronautics and theoretical plasma physicist for Kepler Aerospace Limited. So he loads software into Kepler, the telescope. He worked on government projects in space intelligence, wrote a book called Morningstar Pass, The Collapse of the UFO Cover-Up. Absolute secrecy creates absolute power. So he reminded us of Hamish Shed, that the ex-Israeli Minister of Defense, claiming that the US government has secret agreements with aliens. And Dr. Brandenburg exclaimed that the one group they were dealing with are the Greys. He said the Greys have a long-standing interest. They want Earth. That's why they are making hybrids. Hybrids can live on Earth. It's a complex kind of relationship, and it hasn't gone very well. This was first discussed by John Lear, who had close contact with intel agencies, who said the arrangement with one group of aliens had gone very badly. So that all kind of paints the picture that was in Jim Sparks' book. That is all very similar to what the aliens told me, all creating this picture that the planet was actually the big issue here. And this isn't a takeover. See, I guess I need to reiterate that anyone who has a dark version of this story always omits other pieces of the information. I'm not saying he's doing that on purpose. I'm saying he might himself only have a part of the information. But so for you, the listener, if you subscribe to or believe in the dark version of this, that these are dark entities, that they're taking over, or whatever it might be, it's always missing the bigger picture. A, that they created us. So that has to be in the picture somehow. And also that we are actually in part responsible here to what's going on, which is that we are the ones maybe causing the damage. And actually, I said this in a Reddit post, and I think it's the best way it's ever been framed. The entities that I know are life preservers, and we might be looked at as the ones who are not. And that's a big part of the picture. They are life creators, as I showed earlier, they create, they seed, they influence for the point of God realization, then we might be creating an environment which all works against that. And they see that as a problem. So those pictures need to be in the, when you hear about the dark stuff, these guys have parts of the, parts of the official picture, but none of their dark stuff holds up for me. And though I actually look to these guys for some of their official statements, I don't think that they're doing this stuff on purpose. I think they get part of the picture. And we also have Bob McGuire. Scientist Bob McGuire was at Virginia Tech University, the top military think tank in the US, the Institute, which is the Institute for Defense Analysis. At Spaced Out Radio, he said, "I have never been on the inside. I've had a security clearance and I know a lot of people, but I have never been on the core secrets. That was not my job in the government, but I know some people and they do stuff way up high. And now the disclosure movement has, to my understanding of it, moved inside the White House and is being led by the president's national security advisor, who was put together by a panel to say, here's what we're going to tell people. And they're all trying to make an agreement on exactly what to say." Commenting on the much spoken about 2027 date, where something goes down, he said, "They're coming back to take the Earth. They're coming back to take back the Earth, and they are pissed off at us." And that is reminiscent of my 10th contact event, where the twin called it an outright failure, that an outright failure had actually occurred, saying, yeah, I think that's, and it was kind of harsh, but, and again, that doesn't mean you failed, but, the leadership or the species on some level for them, but not individually you. Again, when you understand that this is kind of a spiritual side to it, then it's not about you. It's not about you individually. It's about the collective, which can never be denied that the collective made these choices. And so, yeah, I just find all that really kind of fitting and making a giant picture that all comes together.